Did you know that losing visceral fat is not always about cutting out foods? In fact, sometimes you can get there much faster when you start adding the right foods as opposed to removing them. Now, to be clear, a calorie deficit is still the foundation of the process. But visceral fat does not respond to calories alone, and there's a lot more nuance there. Visceral fat is a biologically active tissue, and it responds to very specific biochemical signals. You just have to know what those signals are and how to activate them with the right foods. So fat loss happens faster and with far less resistance. In this video, I am going to show you 8 specific foods that scientific research links to the actual destruction of visceral fat, and I am going to tell you exactly why they work, how to eat them, and the critical mistakes that cancel out all their benefits. Stay until the end, because the last 2 foods on this list are the ones most people completely ignore, and they might be the most powerful of all. Before we dive in, let me explain something quickly, because understanding this one mechanism will change the way you see everything we discussed today. Visceral fat is not like the fat you can pinch on your arm or your leg. It wraps around your organs, your liver, your intestines, your pancreas. And it does not just sit there. It actively produces inflammatory molecules called cytokines that circulate through your blood, increase insulin resistance, and literally tell your body to store more fat. In other words, the more visceral fat you have, the harder your body fights to keep it and grow it. The good news? There is a specific biological pathway called the AMPK pathway that acts like a switch. When activated, it signals your cells to burn fat instead of store it. And several of the foods I am about to show you directly activate that switch. Now here's where it gets interesting, and where most people get it completely wrong. Before we go further, if this kind of content helps you, please hit like and subscribe right now. I know everyone says that, but here is the real reason it matters. The algorithm decides in the first few minutes whether to show this video to people who actually need it. People with diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver, people who are searching for answers right now. Your like and subscription directly helps this reach them. So please, do it now, it takes 2 seconds. All right, let us get into the list. Food number 1, avocado. Avocado is loaded with monounsaturated fatty acids, particularly oleic acid, and polyphenols that directly activate the AMPK pathway. Think of AMPK as your body's master energy switch. When it is on, fat cells stop hoarding fat and start releasing it to be burned. A 2021 randomized trial published in the Journal of Nutrition found that participants who consumed 1 avocado per day for 12 weeks showed significant reductions in visceral fat compared to the control group, even with no other dietary changes. But here's the catch. Most people eat avocado with processed bread or crackers, which spikes insulin and completely cancels out the AMPK activation. You are literally undoing the benefit with every bite. I had a client, a 52-year-old teacher, who had been eating avocado toast every morning for 6 months with no results. The moment we switched her to avocado with eggs and spinach, the visceral fat started moving. The food was not wrong, the combination was. Eat half to 1 avocado per day with eggs, leafy greens, or olive oil. Avoid pairing with refined carbs or sugary dressings. Food number 2, ground flaxseed. Flaxseed is one of the richest plant sources of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, a type of omega-3 fatty acid. And here's why that matters for visceral fat specifically. Visceral fat tissue is surrounded by immune cells called macrophages. When those macrophages become inflamed, they amplify the production of cytokines that drive even more fat storage. ALA directly calms those inflammatory signals. It is like turning down the volume on the alarm system that keeps telling your body to store belly fat. Research published in the British Journal of Nutrition showed that omega-3 supplementation was associated with significant reductions in waist circumference. Now here's what nobody tells you. Whole flaxseed passes through your digestive system almost completely intact. You absorb almost nothing. The seed needs to be ground fresh to release the ALA. If you have been throwing whole seeds into your smoothie, you have been getting almost 0 benefit. Grind it yourself in a coffee grinder. 1 to 2 tablespoons per day added to oatmeal, yogurt, or smoothies. Food number 3, green tea. Green tea contains a specific class of polyphenols called catechins, particularly EGCG. EGCG has been shown in multiple studies to increase the rate of fat oxidation and thermogenesis, meaning your body generates more heat by burning fat. A meta-analysis published in the International Journal of Obesity, reviewing 11 randomized trials, found that catechin consumption was specifically associated with reductions in abdominal fat, more than any other fat depot. And here's where most people destroy the benefit. They drink green tea with milk. Proteins in milk bind to catechins and prevent absorption. You are essentially drinking expensive, warm water with zero fat-burning effect. 2 to 4 cups per day, plain, no milk, no sugar. Steep at around 80 degrees Celsius. Boiling water destroys catechins. And if you want the most concentrated version, switch to matcha. It is 10 times more potent in EGCG than regular green tea. Food number 4, cauliflower and cabbage. Cauliflower, cabbage, and other cruciferous vegetables contain compounds called glucosinolates, which your body converts into sulforaphane. Sulforaphane has a very specific and powerful effect. It reduces hepatic gluconeogenesis, which is the process by which your liver manufactures glucose from non-sugar sources. Why does that matter? Because one of the biggest drivers of visceral fat accumulation is chronically elevated insulin. And chronically elevated insulin is often caused by the liver continuously pumping out glucose, even when you have not eaten anything. Sulforaphane tells the liver to slow that process down. A study from UC Berkeley found that sulforaphane reduced fasting glucose and insulin levels in obese patients, a direct pathway to reducing visceral fat accumulation. Critical mistake. Most people boil cruciferous vegetables until they are soft and flavorless, and destroy most of the glucosinolates in the process. Lightly steam or roast them. And here is the hack. Chop them and let them sit for 10 minutes before cooking. This activates the enzyme myrosinase, which dramatically increases sulforaphane production. Food number 5, whole eggs. Eggs are a complete protein source, containing all 9 essential amino acids in near ideal ratios for human muscle synthesis. And here's why that is critical for visceral fat. Muscle tissue is metabolically expensive. The more muscle mass you maintain, the higher your resting metabolic rate, meaning you burn more calories doing absolutely nothing. But there is something more specific happening with eggs. The protein in eggs has a higher satiety index than almost any other food. Studies show that people who eat eggs for breakfast consume significantly fewer calories over the following 24 hours compared to carbohydrate-based breakfasts, without consciously trying to eat less. And here is the point that changes everything. Whole eggs, including the yolk, performed better in studies than egg whites alone. The yolk contains choline, which is essential for liver fat metabolism. Removing it to eat healthy is counterproductive when your goal is to target visceral fat. A 61-year-old man came to me convinced his cholesterol was too high to eat egg yolks. His visceral fat was severe. We kept his eggs whole, changed nothing else, and 6 months later, his metabolic panel had improved, and the visceral fat had measurably decreased on ultrasound. His cardiologist was surprised. I was not. 2 to 4 whole eggs per day, scrambled, poached, or hard-boiled. Avoid frying in vegetable oils. Food number 6, apple cider vinegar. The primary active compound in apple cider vinegar is acetic acid. Acetic acid works through multiple pathways to target visceral fat, but the most documented one is insulin sensitivity enhancement. It slows gastric emptying, which reduces the glycemic spike after meals, which keeps insulin levels lower. And remember what we said earlier about insulin. Chronically high insulin is one of the primary signals that tells visceral fat cells to stay full and keep growing. Anything that lowers the insulin response after eating directly attacks that mechanism. A 12-week Japanese study with 144 obese adults found that daily consumption of vinegar led to significant reductions in visceral fat area, waist circumference, and BMI, with no other dietary changes. But if you are drinking it straight from the bottle, stop immediately. Undiluted acetic acid erodes tooth enamel and can damage your esophageal lining. 1 to 2 tablespoons, diluted in a large glass of water, through a straw, 15 to 20 minutes before your largest meal of the day. Food number 7, black beans and lentils. Black beans and lentils are among the richest dietary sources of soluble fiber. Soluble fiber becomes food for specific bacterial species, particularly Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus, that produce a short-chain fatty acid called butyrate. Butyrate is anti-inflammatory at the intestinal level. And this matters because visceral fat accumulation is directly linked to intestinal permeability, or leaky gut, where bacterial byproducts escape into the bloodstream and trigger systemic inflammation that drives fat storage. Research published in Cell Metabolism demonstrated that people with higher butyrate-producing bacteria had significantly less visceral fat, independent of total caloric intake. Now here's where it gets counterintuitive. People on low-carb diets often eliminate all legumes. But by doing that, they are starving the exact bacteria that protect against visceral fat inflammation. The carbs in beans are not the problem. Refined carbs are the problem. These are completely different. 1/2 to 1 cup of cooked beans or lentils per day, soaked and rinsed if using dried. And food number 8, spinach and dark leafy greens. Dark leafy greens are among the most concentrated sources of magnesium in the food supply, and magnesium deficiency is shockingly common. Studies estimate that over 50% of Americans consume less than the recommended daily amount. Why does magnesium matter for visceral fat? Because magnesium is a cofactor for over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, including glucose metabolism and insulin signaling. When magnesium levels are low, insulin receptors become less responsive. Insulin resistance goes up. And when insulin resistance goes up, visceral fat accumulation accelerates. Beyond magnesium, leafy greens are rich in antioxidants, particularly lutein and quercetin, that combat the oxidative stress produced by visceral fat tissue itself. Visceral fat creates a vicious cycle. It produces inflammation. Inflammation increases oxidative stress. Oxidative stress impairs fat burning. Leafy greens interrupt that cycle. The critical mistake here: people use spinach as a garnish. A few leaves under the chicken. That is not enough. 2 to 3 cups of raw spinach, or 1 cup cooked every single day. Pair it with a fat source, avocado or olive oil, because the fat-soluble vitamins in leafy greens need dietary fat to absorb. Now I know what you are thinking. This sounds good, but how long does it actually take? Here is an honest, science-based timeline. In days 1 through 7, the most significant changes happen in your gut microbiome. You likely will not see changes in the mirror yet, but your body's internal chemistry is already shifting. By the end of the first month, most people notice reduced cravings for refined carbs and sugar. This is the AMPK pathway starting to function more efficiently. Some people lose 1 to 2 inches of waist circumference in this window. By months 2 and 3, visceral fat loss becomes measurable. Inflammation markers begin to fall. Many people report sleeping better and thinking more clearly. And from month 4 onward, visceral fat loss becomes self-reinforcing. Less visceral fat means less inflammation. Less inflammation means better insulin sensitivity. Better insulin sensitivity means less new visceral fat accumulation. The cycle has flipped in your favor. If you ignore this and continue with your current diet, the cycle runs in reverse, and it accelerates with age. Every year, the visceral fat problem becomes harder to reverse. The best time to start was 5 years ago. The second best time is today. Let me summarize what we covered. Visceral fat is metabolically active tissue that drives insulin resistance, systemic inflammation, fatty liver disease, cardiovascular disease, and even cognitive decline. The 8 foods we discussed today work through specific documented biological mechanisms. None of them are magic. None of them work overnight. But when consumed consistently, correctly, and in combination, they create a metabolic environment where visceral fat cannot thrive. The people who fail are not the ones who eat the wrong foods. They are the ones who eat the right foods the wrong way, or who give up before the biological adaptation completes. Important: the information in this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making significant changes to your diet, especially if you have existing medical conditions. Individual results vary. If this video opened your eyes, if something here clicked that had not clicked before, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. 70% of the people watching this video right now will not subscribe. They will close this tab, go back to their lives, and in 6 months they will be in the exact same situation, or worse. The subscription is not for me. It is a commitment to yourself that you are actually going to apply this information. Leave a comment below. Which of these 8 foods do you already eat regularly, and which ones surprised you the most? I read every single comment. And if you know someone who is struggling with belly fat, metabolic syndrome, or diabetes, share this video with them. Not because it will get me more views, because the information in this video could genuinely change their health, and that is the whole point. I will see you in the next video.